Devil's purse. In the human world, people often say that there are many strange species of ghosts. Among those species, sometimes their names have never been mentioned before, but when described, they still make people afraid. 2,000 years ago, a struggle for the throne of the Hung King broke out in the Hongbang era. This gave rise to the most ancient ritual of worshipping gods of the Vietnamese people. They sacrificed living girls to the river god, the sea god, the mountain god, and even to the monsters in the sky and earth to hope for peace. Before Lac Long Quan appeared to eliminate the demon race, these forms were still very popular to pray for the preservation of life for the community. And since then, the demon race was born. The ritual of unintentionally creating a demon by the Vietnamese people is to sacrifice a virgin girl, slit her throat and stuff a fish bladder that looks like a bag into her neck so that she cannot speak or feel pain. Just enough to breathe and enough to let blood flow out, waiting for the river god or mountain god. To put it bluntly, a monster, to come and capture and eat the girl to spare them. After the girls die, they are unjustly unable to be released, and often turn into vengeful souls who kill people to take revenge. They sit on the riverbank, stream bank, waterfall, in a very miserable and desolate way. Logistics. Mr. Dai's family is one of the households with the largest forest land in the area. However, it is also the poorest family in the commune. Mr. Dai has been struggling with his forestry job for the past few years, and he does not want to change jobs because he has fallen in love with the forestry job. No matter what others say, Mr. Dai will not quit his job, which is probably why his family's situation cannot improve. Mr. Dai has a younger brother named Nan, who is more than 10 years younger than him. If outsiders look at him, they would think that Nan and Mr. Dai are uncle and nephew. For the past few years, Nan has been studying in the city and has been living there. It is said that he has been working in a book printing factory and is also a skilled accountant. However, Nan cannot help Mr. Dai much with financial matters because he himself is poor. Mr. Dai did not have many children, he only had one daughter, little Nan, with Mrs. Shu. Nan was 4 years younger than Nan, but much more childish. Up to now, Nan had finished her senior year, but could not find a job she liked. Nan loved singing, but Mr. Dai never allowed her to pursue that career. Perhaps because of that, Nan's studies were getting worse and worse, because she discovered that her passion for singing was too great. She could accept anything just to sing. But her family's expectations always went against her dreams. Nan worked in the city for a few years and was quite famous. He was not rich, but he had enough. Several times when he came back, he saw that his niece was passionate about singing, and he also saw that her brother was stubborn, so he only dared to secretly buy her some music books and music theory books without letting Mr. Dai know. Mrs. Shu knew about this but did not forbid it, only told Nan to be careful not to let Mr. Dai know, otherwise if he was stubborn, Nan would suffer. In Mr. Dai's opinion, the singing career was never good. People had a saying that singing was a lowly profession. In the past, this career was also severely condemned. Singing and performing were both despised and looked down upon by the whole society. And this old-fashioned ideology was always deeply ingrained in Mr. Dai's subconscious and could not be eliminated. The cicadas continued to chirp all day long in the scorching heat. Swallow diligently threw the potatoes into the charcoal stove to roast them. The smell of the burnt potato skin mixed with the sweet, delicious aroma of the golden potatoes made Swallow lick his lips. While waiting for the sweet potato to cook, Nan suddenly heard Mrs. Shu calling. "Nan! Go up the hill and call your dad to come back here. Uncle Nan from Hanoi just came to visit your dad." There was a commotion upstairs, the hurried talking of many people. Hearing about Uncle Nan that Mrs. Shu mentioned, Nan happily ran upstairs, out of breath. "Uncle Nan, when you come back, did you buy me a gift? That harmonica?" In front of Nan appeared a young man in his 20s with a bright face, looking at Nan running towards him and smiling. When Nan stood in front of Nan, she saw Nan stroking her hair and saying, "You're an adult, not a child anymore. You're only 4 years younger than me. There's no shortage of good things to do in the city, why do you insist on a harmonica? And if your dad finds out that I bought you a harmonica, he'll blame me." Nan brushed Nan's hand away and said in a resolute voice, I need a harmonica to concentrate on my studies, to get into university and go to the city. If my dad doesn't let me study music, I'll study secretly. When I become famous and have a lot of money, I'll build a house. And buy a car for my dad. At that time, my dad won't blame me. Nan clicked his tongue several times, then pulled out a brand new harmonica from his breast pocket and said, "Here, the new trumpet, now don't make excuses to be negligent, focus on studying well and tomorrow go to the city to study. Then do whatever you want." Nan nodded happily, eyes wide open, then quickly snatched the harmonica from Nan's hand and ran away. Nan watched as Nan's figure disappeared and just clicked his tongue and said to Mrs. Shu, "This girl will grow up one day and many of you will be tired of her. She is so stubborn that she keeps forcing me to buy her that trumpet. And once she decides to learn music, it will be hard to stop her." Mrs. Shu also smiled and said, "He's just whining to you, but normally our family is poor, he never dares to say a word to ask me to buy him anything. During the last rice harvest, I sold some rice. I planned to buy him a new set of clothes to keep up with his friends, but after buying them, he made me take them all the way to the place to return them." Nan nodded, sat down and drank the cup of strong tea that Mrs. Shu had poured out earlier, then asked again, "So, when I go to the city, have you thought about what major I should study?" Mrs. Shu shook her head. "I'm so bored, it's hard to find a job in any field these days. In my hometown, the only thing we can do is farming. My husband and I are both ignorant and can't think of any good solutions. Luckily, you work in the city. You're quick-witted. Can you help us figure out what school is suitable for our child?" Nan was thoughtful for a moment, pondered and thought, then spoke. "She is so eager to study music, but it is very difficult to find a job after graduating from that school. She is stubborn and refuses to give up. So I advise you to let her study economics like me, and I will provide for her. You should hide it from Dai, otherwise he will not let her go to the city anymore, poor girl." Mrs. Shu nodded back and forth repeatedly to thank Nan. Mixed with her thanks were tears streaming down her face because she could not fulfill her daughter's wish. Nan then asked the next question. "So when does Dai usually come back from the forest?" Mrs. Shu replied immediately. "He comes home every mealtime. But today, if you come down and Nan goes to call him, he will definitely come home right away. Today, he planted seedlings right at the edge of the forest." As soon as Mrs. Shu finished speaking, Mr. Dai's voice immediately echoed outside the gate. "Uncle Nan is coming home?" Nan smiled and replied, "Yes, I have to go back to the commune to do some paperwork, so I'll stop by to visit you." Mr. Dai entered the house, took off his pith helmet and placed it under the table. He took out a handkerchief and wiped the sweat from his face and neck. Then he poured a cup of tea and drank it all in one gulp. Then he looked at Nan and asked in a deep voice, "When you got home, did you stop by your parents' grave to burn incense?" Nan nodded and replied, "I just came back from my parents' grave. I also plan to come back here early because I have something to ask you." Mr. Dai asked in surprise, "You also have a favor to ask of me?" "I'm barefoot and blind like this, what can I do for you? My mind is slow." The man clicked his tongue and said, "I want to politely refuse you again, but this time I can't do it without your help. And it's not just asking for help, the company will also pay me, very well, up to several $1,000,000. Mr. Dai opened his eyes wide and looked at Nan and asked, "So much, what do you do to get so much money?" The man solemnly said, "I heard that our area has a cave that goes deep underground, is that true? Some scientists came back from abroad and wanted to explore that cave, but they didn't know the way. I went through that cave a few times when I was a kid, but I can't remember now. When I was a kid, I always got lost, I didn't mean to go there." Mr. Dai asked again, "You mean the Bat Cave in the forest?" Nan nodded and said, "Yes. That's it." Mr. Dai closed his eyes and thought for a moment, then opened them and said, "No one dares to go into that cave anymore. I heard that many people have gone missing in the past few months. Every time they go into the forest and get close to the cave, they go missing. The commune even sent militia to look for them, but they couldn't find them. Nan said. This time, they went in a group, not individually. Moreover, they even hired security guards. The disappearances were probably kidnappings, nothing strange. When people go in large groups, the kidnappers don't dare to do anything. Mr. Dai nodded and said. Okay then. If there is security, I don't mind. When you were a kid, you hid in that bat cave several times for me to find you. You still remember it clearly. Thinking back to that time, luckily I was tactful, otherwise you would have had to get beaten up by your father. Nan smiled and replied. When I was little, I didn't know anything. When Fook and Dad invited me, I just closed my eyes and ran into the forest. Every time I closed my eyes and ran straight, I would definitely reach that place. Normally, I would walk straight with my eyes open but wouldn't be able to find that cave. That's interesting. Mr. Dai nodded and asked again. When will they be back? You're not leaving right away, are you? The man shook his head and said. I'll come back until the matter is over. Tomorrow, the group will be coming down here, and there might be someone coming down earlier tonight to prepare. After I discuss the matter with you, I also have to go to the district to find a hotel room to book for them to stay. And if you're free tonight, come with me to meet them and discuss. If you speak fluently, they might even give you a bonus so you can comfortably buy seedlings. Mr. Dai slapped his thigh and said. Of course, I have a younger brother who works in the city. This time, the whole commune will be amazed to see me buying rubber trees to cover the bare hills. Soon, I will build a house and buy a car, and maybe even have enough money to travel. Nan nodded and said. Yes, you can dream on. But first, prepare a good story for me. People in the city are very sharp. If you just lie, they will reveal it right away. You can't hide it. So I advise you not to flatter too much, just enough. I will defend you. Mr. Dai nodded in agreement. After chatting for a while, he left. Mr. Dai went to the back garden to prepare some food and tools to fertilize the seedlings. Waiting until the afternoon, he received a call from Nan. Please go to the commune entrance right away. There is a car coming to pick you up. The person from the province has returned. He said he wants to see you to talk. Mr. Dai was so happy that he stopped paying attention to the seedlings. He threw the plants into the corner of the house and then ran straight to the commune headquarters. When he arrived, Mr. Dai saw the commune chairman shaking hands and smiling and chatting with a foreigner with white skin and blue eyes. When Mr. Dai had just reached the gate, someone came out to urge him. Is that you, Uncle Dai? Come here quickly. The commune chairman has endless praise for you. If you appear in the newspaper this time, say a few words for our commune. He is the one who made this a big deal, even on TV. Grabbing Mr. Dai's hand was a young man about 20 years old, a security guard at the commune headquarters. The young man's name was Ki, also a quick-talking person. When he saw Mr. Dai coming, he immediately clung to him, hoping to enjoy Mr. Dai's reputation. Mr. Dai curled his lips slightly in disdain. Thinking back to the matter of asking for subsidies to support forest planting, these security guards were not usually this enthusiastic. But now that they saw him enjoying a little achievement, they swarmed around like flies wanting to lick honey. How could they not despise him? Mr. Dai walked into the middle of the yard and saw a middle-aged man reaching out to shake his hand and greet him. Mr. Dai did not understand what was going on but still shook the man's hand. After a while, the man introduced himself. I am Du Hongquan, a PhD in geology. Nice to meet you. Mr. Dai opened his eyes wide in surprise and said. Oh my God, now I get to meet a real doctor, what a blessing. Dr. Quan was delighted and felt a little proud, but quickly changed the subject and said. I'm just passing through here, now I'd like you to come with us to town for dinner. I want to ask you a few questions tonight. Is it convenient for you? Mr. Dai stammered. Convenient, of course, I'm free all day. All I have to do is feed the pigs and dig in the forest, don't worry, doctor. Dr. Quan nodded and said. Okay then. After Dr. Quan finished speaking, he greeted the people in the commune and then urged Mr. Dai to quickly get in the car to return to the district. Back in town, Dr. Quan led Mr. Dai into a hotel room. Inside, 4 people were waiting as if they had been told. When they saw Mr. Dai enter, they immediately nodded and smiled, greeting him casually. Dr. Quan introduced each member of the group in turn, then looked at Mr. Dai and explained. This time, our relic exploration team was sponsored by an international organization to explore ancient caves in our province. Unfortunately, the pine forests in your commune are so dense that unless you are passing by, you cannot enter. Dr. Quan paused for a moment, then walked over to a map covered in strange patterns. Pointed at it with his finger, he said. According to the historical documents we have researched, plus the inferences of the country's leading scholars, we have concluded that in this area there is a cave containing historical relics dating back about 2,500 years, belonging to the Hongbang period of the Han kings. We suspect that it contains the secret of the ancient script mentioned in the historical records, the Kwa Dao script, or also known as fire script. Mr. Dai heard this and opened his mouth wide. After a while he stupidly said, "Is that tiny bat cave full of secrets?" "I don't know, but when I was little, kids used to go in there to play, and peed all over the walls, but they didn't see anything, not even." Mr. Dai was talking carefully for a while when he was suddenly interrupted by a cough. He turned around and realized that the cough came from Nan. Nan had been sitting behind one of the 3 people asking questions for a long time without Mr. Dai knowing. Hearing Nan's suggestion, Mr. Dai did not dare to continue acting on his own. Dr. Quan saw that and immediately continued. "You don't know, ancient people have many secrets. Although it is just a small cave, thousands of years ago it could have been a large shelter. Over time, the cave was largely destroyed, so it shrank to this size. Many documents point to this cave as the clue, so we must clarify the hypothesis once and for all. We should not just judge by its surface, but also analyze it carefully from many aspects." At this moment, he also stood up and clapped his hands in response, saying, "Comrade Quan is so right, we cannot work based on emotions. This is the quick and professional style that everyone needs to grasp and learn from him." Several people in the whole school clapped their hands and laughed heartily. Dr. Quan was delighted to see this, feeling as if he was on cloud 9, so happy he couldn't speak. A moment later, Dr. Quan woke up from his daze and looked at the people sitting in the room and said, "If we have prepared everything well, let's go eat and rest now. Tomorrow morning our group will depart." Dr. Quan turned to look at Mr. Dai and said, "You can rest here for a day. Follow Mr. Nan so he can explain the work and plan a suitable route to save us time." Then Dr. Quan left the room. The others also left one by one. Only Nan and Mr. Dai remained. Nan looked at Mr. Dai and said, "I told you, don't talk nonsense. Luckily I stopped you in time, otherwise you would have ruined everything." Mr. Dai smiled and scratched his head, saying, "I've always been a person who says things like they are. Luckily you reminded me, otherwise I would have told you about the incident where you peed in public with Dat and Fook." Nan leaned down and whispered softly into Mr. Dat's ear. "Let me tell you, among those people there is also your future sister-in-law. If you don't like me, you have to give me some face. Not everything can be said." Mr. Dai nodded. "I will pay close attention from now on, but they announced it earlier but I completely forgot. How much is this salary, uncle?" Nan clicked his fingers and said, 10 million, you can buy seedlings as much as you want. Then in 10 years there will be a whole green forest named after you." Mr. Dai sighed, unable to say a word. Nan patted Mr. Dai's shoulder for a while then left. Mr. Dai followed Nan to have a quick meal and then went to sleep, to prepare his strength for tomorrow to lead a group of people into the forest. The next morning, a convoy of cars from town rolled down to the commune, carrying portable generators, lamps, tables, chairs. Everything was there. When the whole commune saw so many cars coming down, they clapped their hands and cheered happily like a spring festival. The convoy stopped at the edge of the forest. From now on, once inside the forest, it was impossible to go any further. The road for vehicles was only wide enough for a small motorbike. Anything heavy that could not be carried was put on the motorbike and taken inside. As for the things that could be carried, people carried them in their hands. The edge of the forest is where the residential area and the wild area intersect. Once past the edge of the forest, the entire group will be considered to have entered a completely different world. As he was about to enter the trail deep into the forest, Mr. Dai suddenly heard a call. That call was the call of little Nan. He only heard Nan cry out, "Dad, Dad." Then he ran quickly from the field at the edge of the forest to the edge of the forest. Mr. Dai was stunned for a moment, until he turned around and saw Nan standing suddenly in front of him, so he shouted and asked, "Why did you follow your father here? Why don't you stay home and chop duckweed to feed the pigs?" Nan stroked her hair and said pitifully, "I want to follow my dad and siblings into the forest. There are many interesting things there. But studying has been stressful lately, so I want to go into the forest to relax my mind." Mr. Dai was about to refuse, when Nan's voice interrupted. "Too much studying pressure is not good. In my opinion, you should let him go with you. Anyway, going into the bat cave will only take one session today. It won't take too much time." Seeing Nan had already spoken, Mr. Dai was not able to refuse, so he turned to glare at Nan and said, "Uncle Nan, since you said so, you can come along, but don't mess around or get lost. If you do anything stupid, I'll send you back." Nan opened her eyes wide and nodded, looking satisfied. Then she secretly took out the harmonica that Nan had bought for her from her pocket and put it to her mouth, blowing a few hollow sounds. While blowing, Nan fell behind, trying her best not to let Mr. Dai hear, afraid that he would find out. Nan, who was walking behind, saw this and immediately smiled, snatched the harmonica from Nan's hand and said, "Let me play it for you. Today, since you're going with the group, just practice playing the harmonica. When I get back to the city and I won't be teaching you anymore, you can practice by yourself. You're playing it wrong all the time." Nan finished speaking and blew a sample piece of music. The lively sound of the harmonica in the middle of the forest rang softly in Nan's ears, making the quiet space a little less lonely. Nan listened attentively, occasionally cheering with delight. Along the way deep into the forest, Nan kept practicing the piece of music that Nan had taught him, playing it over and over again but still couldn't play it well. Nan saw this and encouraged him, saying, "You have to practice for a whole month to be able to play this song smoothly. If you practice for a day and expect to be good at it, you won't be good at it." Hearing that, Nan felt a little less sad and tried to practice even harder. Nan's group went deeper into the forest for more than 30 kilometers. Because the forest path was difficult, the group had to travel from early morning until late at night to reach their destination. Before they could see the bat cave as Mr. Dai had said, they had to stop at a small stream to rest after a long journey that lasted for a whole day. They stopped to get some spring water to wash their faces to wake up, then continued on their way into the bat cave. The bat cave was deep in a ravine. The wind blowing fiercely made people always feel gloomy and cold. The bat cave was about a meter wide and round. People could see it was small from the outside, but who knew what secrets were hidden inside the bat cave? Dr. Kwan suddenly walked closer to Mr. Dai and asked, "Is this the bat cave after this stream?" Mr. Dai replied immediately, "Yes, the bat cave is only about 100 meters from the stream. When I was a kid, I often grabbed Nan's neck there and—" Mr. Dai said halfway and realized that he had said something wrong, so he stopped himself without the time. Somewhere in the crowd, there was a steady sound of giggling. Mr. Dai glanced over to where the laughter came from, and discovered that it was a very young and beautiful girl. That girl was standing right next to Nan, and he remembered that this girl seemed to have appeared in the hotel room the first day. Thinking carefully, Mr. Dai guessed that this was the future sister-in-law that Nan was talking about. He looked at Nan and only saw Nan glare at him in annoyance, but did not say anything. Dr. Kwan nodded without saying anything, waiting another 30 minutes for everyone to rest comfortably, then he ordered everyone to set off. The stream ahead was very fast flowing, but not too deep. The group carefully tried their best and finally managed to cross the stream. However, during this process, many people fell and rolled over because they stepped on mossy rocks. Many of them could only scream in pain. After crossing the stream and walking about 100 meters, a crevice in the rock appeared. Deep inside was a deep, pitch-black cave. Dr. Kwon did not say anything, immediately urging everyone to get inside. The first people to go were Nan, Dr. Kwon, and Mr. Dat. Because they were the leaders of the group. Dr. Kwon had just entered the cave when he immediately turned on his flashlight to shine around. The undulating rocks gradually appeared before his eyes. The stalactites were several meters high and long. At this time, Mr. Dai mumbled next to Nan. "When I was little, I only caught you outside the cave, but I never went inside this cave. But now that I've gone inside, it's pretty beautiful, isn't it?" Before Mr. Dai finished speaking, Nan had already crawled into the cave and happily shouted, "Oh, so beautiful, why don't I know about such a beautiful cave in my hometown?" Mr. Dai tapped Nan on the head and said, "You've never been into the forest, how would you know? And even if you did, you're not allowed to go in. I forbid it, do you hear?" Little girl Nan rubbed her head, her voice sullen, showing her annoyance. She ran forward to talk to Dr. Kwon. She said, "Uncle Kwon, are you guys here for a tour? This cave is so hard to find, but you guys know to come here for a tour?" The soldier walked away smiling and replied, "We are going to do research, not to travel." Swallow asked again, "You guys go to do research, but there's nothing but rocks in here, what's there to research about rocks?" The soldier replied, "Yes, rocks have many important things to study, do you know Hung Vong?" Little Swallow replied immediately, "Who doesn't know about Hung Vong, uncle? Hung Vong's death anniversary is on the 10th of March. And I'm the best at history, uncle." The army praised. "Great, then let me explain it to you in an easy-to-understand way. We went to find the ancient text left by Hung King, and that text was carved on stone, so we need to study the stone." Swallow exclaimed in amazement. "Oh, so that's how it is." On the way, little Nan kept chattering, causing Kwon to have to keep responding. Until they reached a bend in the cave. The smell of bat droppings was so strong that everyone had to cover their noses. But Kwon was the opposite, he shouted, "Here it is." His flashlight shone directly on a corner of the cave wall. There were bats sleeping soundly, their bodies hanging in the air, their heads facing the ground. Bats clung to the cave wall, forming a dark patch. Nan heard Dr. Kwon exclaim like that and immediately asked, "What do you see, uncle?" The soldier asked again, "Can't you see the writing? It's on the wall over there?" Nan shook her head. Kwon immediately explained, "Right behind the bats, where there are 3 bats huddled together." While speaking, Kwon suddenly stopped, his eyes wide open in surprise as if he had discovered a secret. At this moment, a rather young girl stepped forward. Her name was Xian, who was also Nan's lover. Xian looked at Kwon and asked, "What's wrong, Kwon? Did you find something?" Kwon looked at Xian and replied, 3 bats huddled together, turned out to be not real bats, but completely made of stone. Look." Kwon finished speaking and pointed to the cave wall, where the bats were sleeping soundly. Xian squinted his eyes and looked carefully before saying, "Yes, 3 stone bats, strange. But you better not touch them. I found out that the bats in this cave are unusual." The soldier asked, "What's different?" Xian replied, "These are not ordinary bats. I suspect they are." Xian was speaking halfway, when suddenly a voice interrupted hers, mixed with a certain sound. "They are vampire bats." "Vampire bats?" All the remaining people in the cave automatically exclaimed strangely. They looked back and discovered that the person who made the deduction was Dr. Do, a doctor of archaeology. After Dr. Do finished speaking, he immediately stepped forward and pointed to explain. "This vampire bat is very bloodthirsty. They usually only appear in America. If they have appeared here, it must be for a very special reason. Dr. Kwon asked again. So are they dangerous? Dr. Dao replied. Normally not, but there are some species of vampire bats that are very aggressive. In large numbers, they can bite people to death. So everyone must be careful, it's best not to wake them up. Dr. Doe walked closer to the 3 stone bats, and suddenly pressed his hand lightly into them. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. Everyone was extremely panicked, and in front of them was a pitch-black stone hole that was just wide enough for one person to crawl through. The hole was about 40 centimeters wide, and no one knew where it led. The strange thing was that even though the ground was shaking violently, the bats seemed to have no idea what was happening, and were still sleeping soundly. Dr. Dao nodded to signal everyone not to say anything, and he himself immediately entered the black hole. Then, one by one, everyone followed Dr. Dao into the pitch-black hole that went deep into the mountain. As soon as he entered the black hole, Dr. Kwon cried out softly. Oh my God, fire! Immediately outside there was a rustling sound, as if something was preparing to wake up. Dr. Dao immediately hid himself and glared at Dr. Kwon behind him. Everyone continued to crawl deeper inside, until they saw Dr. Dao's entire body go through once more and disappear behind the black hole. Everyone knew they had entered a new space. As everyone passed through the hole, a dark and narrow space appeared before their eyes. It was a stone room only a few square meters wide, with a ceiling height of 2 meters, just enough for a person to stand. When they entered, a series of strange characters exactly like the fire characters that Dr. Kwon mentioned appeared at the same time, and they were extremely dense. Dr. Kwon lamented. This project is so massive, it will take a whole year to research. To clarify all these words, it will take a very long time. Dr. Dao replied. But it will clarify all doubts about a part of history that has been obscured for thousands of years. The rest of the group nodded in unison. At this moment, the space in the stone room was extremely cramped and filled with people. Dr. Kwon urged everyone to quickly take pictures of the documents and bring them outside to begin research. At this moment, Nan suddenly exclaimed. Oh, I'm in so much pain. Nan suddenly looked towards Nan, and saw that Nan's hand had been bleeding profusely, her face pale and frightened. The man screamed. Nan, what's wrong? Mr. Dai also immediately ran to help Nan. Nan leaned against a corner of the wall and sat down. Nan whispered. The hole in the wall, I just put my hand in. But the hole in the wall felt like a knife cutting my hand, it hurt so much. Suddenly Nan hugged his head and screamed in fear, his mouth mumbling some unclear sounds. Nan immediately urged and asked. Nan, what happened? Tell me quickly. Nan kept holding his head and waving his hands, saying. Uncle Nan, I saw a woman, she was not wearing any clothes, she was just walking around everyone, her hair was loose, her neck was bulging with a bag like a frog, it looked horrible. Nan kept whispering, then shouted some strange language throughout the room. Everyone standing in this narrow stone room suddenly sweated, looking around in turn to automatically confirm Nan's words. But they saw nothing. Kwon urged everyone to say. Okay, the footage is done, everyone quickly leave here and set up camp. God knows when those bats will wake up. Everyone nodded in agreement. The leader jumped back into the dark hole. The people behind him followed him. Nan lifted Nan up by the armpits and said. Come on, let's go outside and I'll take you to the infirmary. Nan shook his head and said. I can't go, that woman won't let me go. She told me to take her place, saying something like. Nan asked. What did she say, can you repeat it exactly for me? Nan's face turned even paler, then looked straight into Nan's eyes, suddenly uttering a series of extremely strange language sounds. But listening closely, it sounded very much like local Vietnamese, but he didn't know which local Vietnamese language it was from, but it was so difficult to hear, Nan couldn't understand a single word. Nan frowned for a moment and said nothing more. He wondered if Nan was delirious. But at that moment, Nan automatically stood up and crawled into the black hole to get out. Seeing that, Nan urged and said, "Yes, try to go out. Once you're out, I'll take you to the commune health station." Because Nan was in here taking care of her, Mr. Dai had gone out earlier, just waiting to intercept at the other end of the hole to take Nan to the emergency room. Now, as long as Nan could crawl out, Mr. Dai would take her to the infirmary for immediate treatment. Nan kept crawling away, but Nan did not realize that Nan was not the Nan of before. There was an indescribable sharpness in her eyes. She was also mumbling like a mad person, blood continuously dripping from her mouth. Wherever she crawled, the blood dripped down, creating extremely strange ancient characters. Nan crawled out after her. After crawling for a while in the small hole, he suddenly could no longer feel Nan anymore. Nan crawled too fast. She crawled as if she was jogging in this pitch-black hole. The man exclaimed, "Nan, take it easy, don't push yourself too hard if you're tired, or you'll get exhausted." Nan tried to crawl quickly to catch up, but when he got outside, he saw only Mr. Dai standing there. Before Nan could even say a word, Mr. Dai asked immediately, "Where is the girl? Why didn't you let her go first? Oh my God, she's sick and you left her behind?" The man said in panic. "Brother Dai, you're kidding me again. Didn't the baby just crawl out in front of me?" Mr. Dai said harshly. "I don't have time to joke with you, now get out here so the girl can come out. Hurry up." Nan crawled out and tried to explain. "You're not wrong." The baby suddenly became unusually strong and crawled straight out, crawling very quickly. "There's no way I could block one end, you block the other end and the baby would still disappear, it's absurd." Mr. Dai did not believe it, pushed Nan's hand away and then crawled into the black hole himself to verify. But a moment later, he crawled out with a frightened look and said, "Uncle Nan, I don't see the girl, she's missing." "But I was clearly standing outside, seeing everyone come out one by one, but I didn't see the girl?" The impatient man said. "Maybe you accidentally mistook her for someone else. Now crawl out here and look for her outside." Suddenly, Nan finished speaking and looked up at the cave wall, then asked Mr. Dai in fear, "Oh my God, where are all the bats up here?" Mr. Dai said, "Obviously when I was standing there, they were still sleeping there." Nan also said, "I was standing here but I didn't hear any noise." As soon as he finished speaking, Nan and Mr. Dai immediately heard a panicked scream. The shrill sound seemed to be someone calling for help in the middle of the night. Mr. Dai said, "Go out and see." Nan nodded and rushed out of the bat cave. When he got there, he was extremely horrified to discover the bodies of 1 or 2 people lying on the ground. Their necks were punctured and something like tadpoles were constantly crawling out of their throats. Their faces were purple and dead. In the darkness, there were black shadows looming. There were also screams of people running away from the group echoing in the forest, extremely frightening. Suddenly, in the middle of the screaming, a harmonica sounded in the middle of the night, very pleasing to the ears. Hearing this, Lean shouted, "It's Nan." Mr. Dai asked, "How do you know?" Reply, "This morning I bought him a harmonica as a gift, and all afternoon he practiced playing this song while walking backwards." Mr. Dai glared at Nan and said, "So you hid from me that you let the girl learn music. After this incident I will deal with you." Then Mr. Dai ran towards the direction of the sound, muttering as he walked, "No wonder I kept hearing that music in the distance this afternoon. If I had known since this afternoon, the girl would have died with me." Mr. Dai's grumbling sounded like a whisper, but Nan heard everything. He turned a little pale but said nothing. After a while, the sound of the harmonica suddenly stopped. Mr. Dai stood in a bush, looking out at the stream. At that moment, there was a naked girl sitting on a rock in the middle of the stream, humming something strange in ancient language. Mr. Dai hesitated for a moment before this extremely magical scene. At that moment, Mr. Dai was startled by a hand reaching out from the bush, the hand covered in blood. A whispering voice came from the bush. "Save me, save me." When Mr. Dai looked closely, he immediately discovered that it was Dr. Dao. The doctor was holding a blood-stained photo in his hand, with many words written on it. When Nan ran to the place, Dr. Dao had already stopped breathing. Mr. Dai held the photo of the ancient inscription in the cave, trembling and unable to say a word. Nan immediately snatched the photo, wiped all the blood stains on it. Turning the photo back to the outside, he saw the rough translation of the ancient inscription in the photo: a naked humanoid demon with a bag around its neck. It sings in the moonlight sky. Be quiet and don't disturb it. Wait until it finishes singing and disappears on its own before leaving. If it discovers you, run away quickly. Above all, don't let it discover you. It will capture people's souls in the bag around its neck. Bao Ho Kui roughly translated from ancient Muong and Thai script. Nan's hands trembled as he looked at the writings, then looked out into the stream. It was indeed a naked person singing. Looking up at the sky, it was indeed a bright moonlit night. The only detail left was the bag around his neck, but he didn't know if it was true. Nan quickly pulled Mr. Dai's head down and hid behind a bush. Just in time, the girl turned to look this way. Mr. Dai groaned and wanted to say something, but Nan kept covering his mouth to prevent him from screaming. Only when the girl turned away did Nan release the cover on Mr. Dai's mouth. Mr. Dai gasped and said, "What are you doing?" Nan said immediately, "What Uncle Dao wrote in here said that naked man is a ghost. Do you want to be captured by it? Read it." Having said that, Nan gave the back of the photo to Mr. Dai to read. After reading it, Mr. Dai immediately shivered and didn't know what to do. He just asked Nan, "So what do we do now?" Nan said, wait for the demon to disappear automatically, try not to let it detect you." At this time, Nan looked intently at the girl sitting on the rock in the middle of the stream. She was singing while looking around everywhere as if searching for something. Every now and then she would turn her face this way. Through the gap in the leaves and the dim moonlight, Nan was horrified to realize that on her neck there was a bag like a frog fluttering. Her face was blurry and her appearance was unclear. Nan was so scared that he lowered his head to the ground, not daring to look any further. Just then, a terrifying scream suddenly rang out in the middle of the night. The naked demon who was singing suddenly stopped singing. Its eyes turned cold as it looked towards the source of the sound, its mouth forming a terrifying smile. Blinking once more, the demon had disappeared. Nan only saw at the end of the stream, the demon was standing there, in front of a man with a startled face who was standing there looking at the demon. At that moment Nan grabbed Mr. Dai's arm and said, "It's time, let's run, Dai." While the demon was not paying attention, the two of them sneaked across the stream. When they had just reached the other side of the stream and entered another bush, the demon had returned to its original position. The man at the end of the stream had collapsed and died on the spot, just like Dr. Dao. Nan swallowed his saliva and looked back at the demon, only to see the bag around the demon's neck was heaving. The demon was also breathing heavily, looking happy as if it had just been satisfied. Its face slightly lost its haziness, then became hazy and misty again. For a moment, Nan glanced over and felt that the face was somewhat familiar. After waiting for a while, the demon disappeared automatically. Taking advantage of this moment, he and Mr. Dai ran back to the village. Along the way, Mr. Dai was always scared and thought about Nan and was afraid that something would happen to her. But Nan was fine, she had come out of the forest the earliest in the group. When she met everyone else in the group who had escaped from the forest, Nan and Mr. Dai were there. Mr. Dai was both angry and resentful, but he loved Nan, so even though he was angry, he didn't say anything, just glared at her. In this expedition, everyone died, only Xian and Quan escaped. After asking around for a while, Nan found out that when Mr. Dai and his brother were struggling in front of the black hole, the bats woke up. Strangely, at the same time, they all heard a clear singing sound, and the bats kept aiming straight for their throats and biting them. Everyone was so scared that they ran everywhere. Xian and Quan were lucky to escape because they still remembered the old route, but the others were not so lucky. All of them were either bitten to death by the demon bats, or their souls were taken by the demons and turned into empty corpses. Xian saw Nan and couldn't help but run to hug him right in front of Mr. Dai. "Mr. Dai, in his tense state, saw that the two had started to openly have a relationship and was very happy. Kwon was also shocked, because he didn't know that Nan and Xian were in love. Originally, after this incident, Kwon still wanted to confess to Xian, but it seemed that he had missed his chance. After overcoming such danger, the beauty would naturally have a very deep memory, and in the end, who was the one who protected her? Of course it was Nan, so from now on, Nan would forever be important to Xian because of this kind of memory. After Nan asked a little more about the work plan, Kwon sighed sadly and said, "There were a lot of dead people, but the information collected was not worth much. Look, I could only get 2 photos from Mr. Dao's hands. The rest were all lost in the hands of others." Nan said, "So tomorrow we go back to the forest to find them. We also have to bring their bodies back to bury, to get the rest of that information." The man said in panic, "I wouldn't dare go in there again. Look at the sky now, it's almost noon, it would take all day to get in there and there's no traffic. Going in during the day, you can only look for corpses at night, but if you go in at night, what's the risk of encountering ghosts?" Nan nodded and looked back at the scene. Indeed, he and Mr. Dai had walked all night, and finally reached the edge of the forest after morning. He didn't think the journey would take so long. Perhaps he and Mr. Dai were so worried about Nan that they didn't pay much attention to the time they spent together. After that time, Nan returned to the city. Kwon had to make a report on the disappearance of the whole group. Although he did not collect much information this time, according to the regulations, Mr. Dai was still entitled to 10 million VND as salary. When he received that amount of money, Mr. Dai was very happy and suddenly had the inspiration to send Nan to music lessons. Nan could not believe her ears. The next day, she was urged to go to the city to find Nan's family to ask for shelter. Nan happily agreed and arranged a private room for his niece. Nan went to art school and after a few years became a famous singer throughout the city. She had plenty of money and started to buy her own house and car. She also bought enough land in the countryside for Mr. Dai. As a result, Mr. Dai, who was the poorest person in the area, now enjoyed a life of luxury because of his daughter. Success continued to come to his family like a stroke of luck, a lucky coincidence bestowed by God. But no, Mr. Dai and Nan did not know that it was not luck at all but a disaster, an unnamed hidden disaster. At the end of the working day at the printing factory, Nan suddenly saw a thin, emaciated man with a haggard face standing in front of the printing factory door waiting for him. When he got there, the man ran up to him and asked, "Nan, do you remember me?" Nan had no idea who that person was. That person patiently explained, "Oh my God, don't you recognize me? I'm Kwon, Dr. Kwon from 2 years ago." Nan slapped himself on the cheek as if he couldn't believe it. He said, "Are you Dr. Kwon? Impossible, why are you so haggard?" Kwon sighed, pulled Nan's hand and said, "Come have a meal with me, I have something to tell you." Then Kwon just pulled Nan's hand and walked straight. Nan didn't dare to go against him and just followed. Kwon led Nan into a small beer house, ordered a plate of boiled peanuts and 2 glasses of beer, then told him to sit down. Nan nodded and sat down on a chair, seeing that Kwon didn't say anything but just sat there drinking beer. Nan absent-mindedly looked around the beer house, then suddenly looked up at the TV that was showing brief news, and accidentally heard some very strange information. In the past few years, there have been cases of people dying from myocardial infarction in the city. The authorities believe that these are not natural deaths but are deliberately staged. However, the culprit has not been found yet. People need to pay close attention to their movements at night, and if they see any suspicious signs, please report them to us via the hotline number. The news on the radio was playing continuously and Nan was listening attentively when he was interrupted by Kwon's conversation. Kwon said, "Do you remember the fire characters we got from the bat cave in the forest near your house?" Nan nodded and replied, "Remember, because of that word fire, so many people had to die, how can I forget it in this life?" The soldier laughed bitterly and said, "After that incident, I was imprisoned for a year for negligence and also had my doctorate revoked." Nan looked at Kwon and sighed. A man at the peak of fame was like that. Why did he end up in this situation? He asked. No way, that's not your fault? The soldier shook his head and replied. You don't know, it's because I couldn't tell the truth in the report. That's why it happened. Nan asked in surprise. Why can't you tell the truth? The soldier replied. Why? Do you think they would believe you if you said you saw a demon, and that everything was caused by a demon? Nan understood and said. That's why you chose to lie to go to jail? The soldier tilted his head slightly and replied. Better than being locked up in a mental hospital. And it was only for a year. After a year out of prison I started researching again. Those same characters were in the other two pictures. And you know what? I actually discovered a secret. Curious person asked. What secret? The soldier looked around for a while, then said softly. Then the devil appeared in us. Nan opened his mouth wide, unable to believe what Quan had just said. Without waiting for Nan to say anything, Quan took out 2 photos from his breast pocket and placed them on the beer table. And then he placed 2 crumpled A4 papers on the table for Nan to see. He pointed at the 2 crumpled A4 papers covered with words and said. Look for yourself, it took me a year of research to find out this secret. Too bad, we were walking with the devil without knowing it. After listening to Quan, Nan's hands trembled as he picked up the 2 crumpled A4 papers and read each word. At first, he was quite calm, but after a while, extreme panic erupted in his brain. He threw the 2 A4 papers covered with Quan's words onto the table and said. No, you're wrong. You translated it wrong. The soldier sneered and said. I know you understand, and you don't think I'm wrong, you even believe it. It's just that you can't accept the truth, right? Nan stood up angrily and left. On TV, the news keeps repeating the news about the recent cases of people dying from heart attacks that were staged, and urges people to report the suspects. Quan drank the entire glass of beer in one gulp, his face flushed red. He chuckled and looked at the bright red words that stood out the most on the 2 A4 sheets of paper. The ghost servant can choose a substitute by exchanging a contract. That person must be someone who loves to sing, only then can the ghost servant live and exist among the living world, surpassing the category of only existing in a certain range. At that time, its evil power is endless. Quan looked at the A4 paper and immediately felt disgusted, crumpled it up and threw it in the trash. Nan's mood at the moment was the same, like a pile of scrap paper with thoughts. He looked up at the sky and discovered that tonight was a bright moonlit night. Walking through the small alley on his way home, he suddenly saw a woman's silhouette looming in a nearby alley. Nan followed and discovered that the person was Nan. The thought of what had just happened flared up in him, making him unable to resist following Nan. Only to see the proud Nan wearing a gorgeous dress. She was looking around as if she was on guard to see if anyone was following her, or if anyone had appeared in this deserted alley. Immediately after that, Nan began to act strangely. She took off all the clothes on her body and threw them into a hidden corner. Now she was naked, and her face turned slightly hazy. Nan suddenly reached out and peeled off a piece of skin from her neck, revealing a bag that was bulging like a frog in the hollow of her neck. Nan was so terrified when he saw this scene, he did not believe what Quan had speculated, but now it was true. Because of Mr. Dai's previous prohibition, Nan had traded with the demon in that very stone room. Now she had become a demon's vassal, a type of demon that caused fear thousands of years ago. Nan's scream echoed in the deserted alley, immediately attracting Nan's attention. She shouted, "Who is it?" Then her naked body slowly moved towards the direction where the scream came from. A terrifying sound rang out, and the entire black sky collapsed. Nan collapsed to the ground and died. The next day, the station reported another strange heart attack. The killer was becoming more brazen in his actions.